respect the flag. That's all I can say.
Okay, what we're doing here is I'm going to show you how to make a powder coat oven. These ovens, depending on the size, run anywhere from basically right around $4,000 up to $7,000 or $8,000. A 4x4 by 6 runs right around $5,000 or $6,000. So if you're a cheap bastard like me, you ain't gonna pay that. So what you need to do, you buy metal studs, as you can see here. Okay, I'll explain how I'm doing. I'm not going to show, putting screws in it and stuff, because that's kind of silly. Now, once you get one side of it done, okay, see this here? That there is track, okay? This is a metal stud, this is metal track. You want to use metal track for the top and bottom. I'm using it for the side also, because what I'm actually making here is a 4-foot wide by 81-inch tall door for the oven. So this is the door. So I just took 10 footers of the rail. I took 10 footers and I centered it, cut my 4 foot, just notched it as you can see, and then I bent that part up there, the excess. Okay, these were 10 footers. So if you marked it from 5 foot as your center and go 2 feet on either side of that, that gives you your 4-foot opening. You'll do the exact same thing if you're making a wall. So there's no difference really. Okay, so what I did is, because this is a door and you want your door to be solid, what I did is I put them every 12 inches, as you can see. See, there, there, and there, and then I put one on either end. So I use 5 metal studs, in the door. That gives you a lot of strength. Now, you want to make sure, whether it's walls or the door, you want to make sure it's square. So, 2 ways to do that. I already know this is off. If you measure from that corner to this corner, it's 95 inches. You measure from that corner to that corner, and it's 93 inches. So you know you're out of square. Now, you can measure corner to corner, corner to corner, and if you do that and they match, you are dead on. The dimensions should be the same. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this whole thing, obviously, with sheet metal, and the sheet metal will square it. So I'm not worried about squaring it, because it'll be squared. Now, if you use, depending on the thickness of the sheet metal you use, I heard a lot of people online using a thinner sheet metal, and they have problems with it buckling. So I will show you that. A demonstration here as I kill myself. Now if you look at this one here, this is getting replaced. Okay, this piece here. I just wanted to show you. Now when this heats up, you can see how flimsy that is. See that? Even if you screw it all the way up, it's still going to be flimsy. So you're going to get popping, cracking, noise. Now, if you look at this panel, I know it's hard to see because of lighting, but if you look at this panel, I cross break it. Okay? Now when you're doing sheet metal, I do ductwork, heating and cooling for a living. So if you go in your basement, attic, wherever, and you look at your ductwork, you'll find that all your ductwork has this cross brace. Doesn't matter, your main trunk or cold air return, it generally all has a cross break like that, because it stiffens the ductwork and you won't get that sheet metal popping sound, because it can be annoying. So anyway, I cross broke that one. The ceiling in here, I did the same thing. I cross broke the ceiling. This material is, you can see, this material, if I remember right, is 20, I want to say 28 gauge. The bigger the number, the thinner the sheet metal. Anyway, now you can see this inside of the oven here. This back wall is 4 foot wide. There's drywall behind it, but I added insulation, so I'm not going to worry about the about the drywall reaching temperature and starting to fire, because you figure the highest temperature you're going to put in your oven is 450 degrees. Most powders dry our flow at 400 degrees, so you have to make sure that once it starts to flow, I'll do a video on it, that once it starts to flow, that's when you start your timer. So if it says bake for 20 minutes at 400 degrees, that doesn't mean put it in the oven, bake it for 20 minutes and you're done. What that means is it'll start to flow when the temperature reaches 400 degrees, 375 to 400, depending on the powder you're using. So it'll start to flow. When it does that, that's when basically you can set your timer. But you want your part to reach 400 degrees, and that's why you use an infrared thermometer. And once the part reaches 400 degrees, that's the point where you set your timer. Some people say set it as soon as you see it start to flow out, that's when you want to set it. Negative. You want to set it from, okay, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. But according to manufacturer of the majority of these powders, when it starts to flow out, that's when you got to keep an eye on it. Some people set the timer. I wait until the surface temperature of the part reaches 400 degrees. Then that's when I start my timer, when the part reaches temperature. All the powders will let you know 375, 400, or 450. All the parts let you know. So anyway, the insulation, as you can see, this is ductboard insulation. You make ductwork out of it, actually, is what you do. It's ductboard. It can withstand the temperatures of 400 degrees without any issues at all. So I'm not worried about the temperature reaching back, because the way I did this is inserted inside these studs. So there is a slight gap, 1/8 of an inch gap, between here and the inside sheet metal, which allows any air leakage to flow up from the bottom, come up, and reach the top up here, so you don't have to worry about the wall. Now, I used one, if you look at the studs, all right, I use 1 5/8, okay? You can go thicker if you want. It really all depends on how much money you want to spend. 1 5/8 basically is pretty close to 2 inches, obviously 3/8 shy from it. So your temperature, your insulation, if you buy 2-inch insulation, it'll fit and provide you, a good thermal barrier. Now, if you don't want to do that, instead of going 1 5/8, they make 2.5 inch. Okay, they make 1 5/8, 2.5, 3.5, I believe, are the sizes. Don't quote me. Somebody will say, "Oh, you guys full of shit." This is 1 5/8. I know for sure they make a 3.5 inch metal stud, meaning depth-wise, this wise here. Okay, this is 1 5/8 from here to here. The face of it is the same on pretty much all of them, 1.5 inches roughly. So there you go, metal studs. Now, this oven, like I said, is 4 foot. Inside dimension is 4 foot by 7 foot by 30 inches. So you can see 3 studs for each side, 4 in the back. And you can see, that's pretty solid. Takes a lot to get it to rattle. It's solid. And you figure the front of this isn't on yet. As you can see, there's no supports up here or anything yet. So it's still flimsy as far as the top goes, and the bottom I don't have fastened down yet, say. So when you'll fasten it to the floor if that's what you so desire. I will fasten it to the floor, but I have to be very careful because I have in-floor heat that I installed. So I don't want to go too deep and puncture a water line. That would not be cool for the in-floor heat. So anyway, I will I'll get a shot of a drawing. I'm not sure how to put it up there, a link or whatever, I'll try, of how to do this. So anyway, building your own oven will cost you, I'll go through the steps, will cost you roughly $300, $200 to $300, depending on the size. that beats the hell out of anywhere from, you know, $5,000, $7,000 or $8,000, beats the hell out of it. And as I go, I will show you, you know, I'm going to mount an element here, an element on this side, and probably one on the back side. So you have heat radiating in from all sides, and this should reach temperature within 15-20 minutes. It'll reach 400 degrees. So anyway, to cross break them, all you really need to do a cross break, if you don't have, stuff gets in the way, if you don't have a break like I have here, all you have to do is take any kind of straight edge, like this, okay? Any kind of straight edge will work, doesn't matter. Any kind of straight edge, and then what you do is you can take a screwdriver, a nut driver, pretty much anything, and what you do is to cross break it, you know, line your corners up. You can see there's a corner there, okay? Line it up with the corners. You don't have to be exact, because you know what? You don't care. And then I won't be able to film me doing this because I can't hold the camera and do it at the same time. So you can see how I have this set. All you need is a screwdriver, Phillips regular screwdriver, anything with a blunt edge, and then you hold your straight edge down. All right, I'm gonna hold the back of it with my knee. Just take your screwdriver or whatever you're using and push down on it and drag it. Keep a lot of downward force. All right. And take a look at it, and if you notice it's not deep enough, go ahead and do it again. Now keep in mind, this sheet metal here is a little bit easier to do it with, because this sheet metal is this is sheet metal for a cold air return. Okay, so it's a thinner gauge. Now the inside of the oven, you've seen how I did that, but what I'm going to do is I have to pick up sheet metal from supplier, and comes in like 3, they don't carry it 4x8 sheets, they carry 3x8, and it's a heavier gauge. It's I believe it's 26 gauge. In a way, it's thicker than this cold air return type material. It's the same thickness they use to make ductwork out of, and that stuff is like $45 a sheet. So if you're doing an oven big like this, you know, you're going to spend 400, 500, or 400. You're going to spend 200, 250 on thick sheet metal. The thin stuff works just as good. Really up to you. The inside I'm going to do with a heavier gauge. The outside is what I'm going to use all this for, because you want it sturdy, especially the door. So anyway, enough rattling. And then you do the same thing with this one. You just cross break it, take a screwdriver, jam your screwdriver, push on it hard. Alrighty. And there you go. That's the easiest and simplest way to make a cross break if you don't have a break big enough to cross break it. So there you go. That's how you do that. And simplest way. I keep rattling on. I apologize for that. So I'm going to take this piece, and seeing as how this is the door, I'm going to put that on the face of the door. And because that sheet metal is 4 feet wide, I think it's 4 feet by 3 feet. Because it's 4 foot, my door, okay, is 4 foot across. So I know if I put it on here, and if you notice, see, there's no screws. All right, everything is centered. It's all screwed from the other side, but you see how I don't have any screws in that yet? Because you don't want any ripples. So when you lay your sheet metal, it'll lay flat, then run your screws through the sheet metal into the metal studs. That way there you got a nice, flat, perfect surface. So I will do that. You don't want to see me put screws in it. That's pretty simple. So I will cut this and I'll put the piece on there and show you. Alright, I'll waste time to show you how to put screws in. But anyway, take your sheet metal, and I highly recommend that you wear gloves when you're handling sheet metal. Alright? It's really a good idea to wear gloves. I don't always wear gloves like I should. And anyway, see, yeah, you should be able to see. So if you start in one corner, all right, make sure you're dead on in the corner, okay? Run a screw in here. Then if you need to move this either way, run a screw. And right now, this side is centered. And over here, I probably have a 1-inch gap because it's out of, it's not square, it's out of square. So if I put a screw here, then I'll force that down, put a screw over there, and then we'll be square. So I will bore you and put a couple of screws in there. Now there's all kinds of videos up there on how to, make these. Everybody has a different way. Everybody has a different way of doing things. So is there a right way and a wrong way? Depends on who you ask. Now, because I have to go through more layers of sheet metal, I'm going to use a little bit longer screws on the face of this. So I'm going to use some little bit longer screws. Alright. Let me grab my drill. I'm hoping that's not... I guess that looks pretty good. You can't really see my fat head. So that's a plus, right? So, anyway. Who needs to bore you with the details? Now, there are some videos where they show them doing the whole thing. So what I did, just so for your reference, like I say, what I did is this door is a 4-foot wide door. I don't need it 4 foot, but I want to make the oven accessible completely. So by making it 4 feet, there we go. By making it 4 foot, the door 4 foot, I have a 4-foot opening. So literally, now the problem with these metal studs, as you can see, this part pushes in the inside of it, the outside is solid, but this will push in when you're doing it. That can be a pain in the ass because your screws are going to go through the first piece and push the bottom piece. So what you want to do, to make sure you stay square and not get pissed off and throw tools, run a screw basically right in the corner. Okay, bingo. I know that corner is solid, it ain't going to go anywhere. Now, because of the cross break, put the cross break facing outward. If you're doing the inside of your oven, take a cross break, face it inward. Okay? It doesn't really matter, but it looks better. Now, because I know I have a lot of room to maneuver here, so here, I know I'm off. But if I force this to the edge, alright, and use my bottom track as my straight edge all the way across, you're good. Now I'm only going to do the 2 corners, alright? Because you want to make sure you're good. So I'm going to do the 2 corners before I do these studs, simply because I know the top of that has to come over this way. I'm just framing out the bottom now, squaring it up. So we know that this is square. Okay? So run a screw in. Alright. There we go. Now I can continually run all the screws in the bottom, but I like to have it totally squared up first. Now if you look at it, okay, you can see the top or bottom, depending on how you look at it. That right there is perfectly square. Now you can see, let's zoom in. You can see how that's overlapping there. You know, it's not all the way over to the outside edge. And over there, it's past, okay? So, all you have to do, zoom it back out. I know I'm killing people here. They're like dying. What is this guy doing? So anyway, all you have to do is it doesn't matter which end you do it from. Let me make sure you can see. Not sure you can really see. So let's zoom out a little bit. I am not a professional video photographer, in case any of you are wondering. I know it seems like it. Now, I know that obviously I am not square. You see, this has got to come way over. Okay? So this is where a second person would come in handy to force. I'm not even shot. Can't even see me. Like I said, I'm not a professional. Anyway, so I know the whole thing, yeah, this whole frame has to go that way in order for that to be square. Because I already have some screws in the other side, that's the whole reason it's not exactly square right now. So with a second person, it'd be much easier because you can just force. You could have somebody put their foot over there and force it over, because see, when I try to pull on this, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a pain. So I have to get that in to come this way quite a bit, which I'm not concerned with because that's pretty simple to do if you had a third person. Okay? So, anyway, two ways you can do it. You can, you know, just force it over. Obviously, is what I'm going to do. Or make sure you're square when you first do it. Or have two people. So there's a variety of ways to do it. But once that first piece on there is square, then you know the whole rest of this is going to be square without any issues. So I'm going to square it up, but I'm going to pause it because who cares about me putting screws in, right? I know, Kosh.